Welcome everybody to Backward Point Podcast. My name is Nazar Sayed, and as always, with me is my brother and my co-host
Bashar Sayed.
Today we are sort of in a new variation of the Backward Point Podcast, Bashar. This is how we used to look, a couple of years ago when we used to live in that one-bedroom apartment. And we used to drag in all the furniture in my room to shoot the podcast, and then drag in all the furniture out of the room. So kind of reminiscent of that. We decided to bring back the table for this podcast, if that's something that you guys think, adds to the aesthetic, especially if you're watching on YouTube, because Spotify listeners can also watch if they're listening on Spotify, but some other listeners like Google Podcasts and Apple Music, Bashar, cannot watch us at all. So if you're watching us, then let us know if the aesthetic is warming, if you guys feel like we're more competent like this. Today's podcast is produced by me, which is different from all the other podcasts that are.
Can you explain what it means to produce an episode?
Yeah, so when you produce an episode of this podcast, you're basically pulling all the notes, you're making all the research, you're tying all the loose ends, you're making sure that whatever is being said on the podcast is accurate and factual, and whatever opinion is we are forming, it's from a place of education and not just assery. We don't want to make a fool of ourselves on this podcast because a lot of people still, after that much research, still point out stuff that we may have missed. It's impossible to know everything. So this episode idea was mine, and I wanted to produce it, and I wanted to actually get my hands dirty with the research aspect of it, which now that I've done it, I have so much respect for you, because it's a tough job. And as always, we release all of our notes on our Patreon, and our Patreons actually love it. We wanted to actually thank our Patreons. We just did a live video call with them this weekend, and there was really positive remarks about the podcast, which we always love, and good conversations and all that. And people actually really like the notes aspect of it. And honestly, it's one of the hardest things that we have to do for this podcast, and we love sharing with people. And this podcast is no different. Today, we're talking about Pakistan through the World Cups. So starting from 1975 all the way to 2019, which a World Cup that we happen to be physically present at. We're going to be talking about Pakistan's performances in all of the World Cups.
ODI World Cups.
Yes, only the ODI World Cups. And, there's going to be scandals. There's going to be moments of, well, was that fixed? Was that not fixed?
Wow.
There's going to be moments of, was 92 really a good victory or not? People raise questions about that all the time. And, which World Cup actually did we truly lose? Was it the 99 World Cup final, or was it the 87 World Cup semifinal? Because the 87 World Cup team was insane. And we'll get into all of that. Anyways, thank you all for watching and going through this rambling intro. Again, like, subscribe, share. We're actually facing a little bit of a shadow ban. You noticed this as well, right? YouTube basically stopped pushing our content to our subscribers, and it's really taken a hit on our morale. So if you guys are listening and watching to this, we really appreciate if you could leave a thumbs up, comment, share it with people. Because it's us against the algorithm at this point.
I think it's taking a hit on your morale. I am more determined to make more content, to keep pushing it out there, because I believe in making good content and hoping that the right audience will eventually find it. There's people who DM us saying that they've just discovered our channel and they've gone back to watch all 37 episodes. So we're gonna stay at it regardless of whatever happens. And we know that there's an audience out there who like our content, who like to engage with us. So I'm looking forward to making more episodes, and then focusing more on this episode. I thought it was a very interesting idea, just building up towards the ODI World Cup. We're almost at the beginning of it. It starts next week. So just going through the history of how Pakistan has done historically at other ODI World Cups would be great. I think we've witnessed ODI World Cups since 2003. That's where my earliest memory of cricket actually begins. And then more consciously, we've been watching the 2007 World Cup, where we lost to Ireland, and then the 11 World Cup, 15 and 19, we're lucky enough to be there. So yeah,
full circle moment for us, man. In 2019, actually being there, with seeing Pakistan win two historic games, if not, but definitely one game that basically brought the legend of Babar Azam to the forefront. His 10th ODI century. We were there to witness it. It turned Babar from a potential cricketer to the cricketer,
from a prince to the king.
Yes, I would agree with that. And so it's been a lot of build up towards it, and 2023 is no different. 2023, we actually host a cricket podcast that people actually want to listen to, which is still wild to me. But yeah, let's get into this because I want to get into some overall records, overall stats, and then we can get into year by year or World Cup by World Cup. So this is how Pakistan has done overall in the stats. And if you guys are at home following through on Patreon and looking over our stats, and you can definitely do that. All right. So the first World Cup that was ever played in cricket ever was the 1975 World Cup, which was played in England, and Pakistan got knocked out in the group stages. 79 was also in England, knocked out in the semifinals. 83, where was that, Bashar?
England.
Yes, knocked out in the semifinals. Captain was Imran Khan at that time. That was the first World Cup that Imran Khan captained. 87. Now that's a tournament that doesn't really get talked about a lot. One that I really wanted to dive deep into when we get there. 1987 Cricket World Cup, which was played in Pakistan, India. Actually, Pakistan got knocked out in the semifinals. Imran Khan was again the captain of that World Cup. 92, Australia, New Zealand were the hosts. Pakistan was champions. You know, they won that World Cup. Insane history and story. Well repeated, well documented. We don't have to get too deep into that, but we will talk about it. 96 World Cup was played in Pakistan, India, and Sri Lanka. Pakistan got knocked out in the quarterfinals against India. We will definitely be talking about that first World Cup that Wasim Akram hosted, actually. And then the infamous 99 World Cup, which was again hosted by England, Wales, Ireland, the whole UK. Pakistan was runners-up, lost to Australia in the final. Wasim Akram was again the captain of that World Cup. He was actually a pretty good World Cup captain. We will discuss that. 2003, 2007, we should probably not ever talk about again, but because of the basis of this, the thesis of this podcast, this is something we will go extensively deep into. 2003 was held in South Africa, Zimbabwe, Kenya, and Pakistan were out in the group stages. 2007 was West Indies, first World Cup they ever hosted, out in the group stages. Semifinals into 2011 World Cup. A lot of us were alive and well and healthy and remember that World Cup quite fondly. For me, it was the peak of my Shahid Afridi dum. He was the peak of my fandom for that man. Everything that I stand for in cricket starts and ends there. 2011 World Cup was a great memory for me for the most part. 2011 semifinal, definitely something that we want to forget. Bashar, what do you think?
We just watched the highlights yesterday on Star Sports. As much as we want to forget that World Cup, that match, I don't think Star Sports and the Indian media will ever have
Truly
us
let
forget
us forget it.
I genuinely believe I do watch Star Sports pretty often, and whenever they're free, their most fun thing to do is to put on India versus Pakistan World Cup match. And obviously the record is it 12-1 or 13-1?
It's 7-0 in ODIs and 13-1 overall.
Yeah. So they just love putting on a Pakistan versus India match highlights, and especially the matches where Pakistan gets thrashed. Like the semifinal you mentioned, they only showed Sachin getting dropped once, even though he got dropped like four or five times.
He got dropped 4 times.
There was a close stumping call.
Yep. There was like 6 or 7 chances for Tendulkar in that semifinal. We'll get to it. Don't worry. That was the 2011 World Cup. 2015 World Cup was a sad affair. Also in Australia, New Zealand, knocked out in the quarterfinals. 2019, even though technically we got knocked out in the group stages, played in England, by the way. It was a very crucial World Cup and not as bad as people think it is. We'll go through game by game for that in the 2023 World Cup. Well, it's TBD. We will find out in about 6 weeks what actually happened to that. Maybe earlier. I hope not. But that's the overall record of Pakistan in the ICC Cricket World Cups that have been going on for a better part of 50 years now, almost. So, thoughts, ideas, any general feelings about this initial overall record, Bashar?
Yeah, what was Pakistan's like overall record? Is there like I think we've won 42 games, we've lost 30 odd games. There's a couple of games that there was no results on.
So the full result is in all of the World Cup games, we've played 80 of them. We've won 45, lost 32, and no results is around 3. And also, by the way, these are all the stats you can pull up from Wikipedia as well. We're just reading through it and analyzing it. By opponent, if you want to go, the one that stands out to me is that, again, 0% against India, which is crazy, 7 for 7-0. Pretty good stats against Australia, judging that Australia are 5-time champions. We won against them 4 times and lost against them 6, 40%. Not super bad.
New Zealand was something that put a center for me.
I was just going to say, if you want to talk about it, New Zealand, we've beat 7 out of 9 times and only lost twice. 77 win percentage. I mean, they're they really can't play us in the World Cup stages. We've kicked them out so many times.
And I was also thinking of just South Africa, not in ODI World Cups, but I think just overall, we've beaten South Africa in most ICC tournaments that I can remember. Like,
actually, the stats differ on you on that because we've lost.
No, just I was talking about like overall World Cups, like T20s.
Okay.
Like we beat them in 2022. We beat them in 2019 World Cup, ODI World Cup, 2017 Champions Trophy.
2009.
2012, we beat them in the T20 World Cup where Omar Gul played that crazy innings. 2009, we beat them.
Afridi's famous catch.
So we've done well against South Africa.
But the numbers suggest that overall in the World ODI stages, World Cup ODI stages, we've only won against them twice and lost 3 times, which is shocking. But because recent memory serves differently.
Yeah.
One thing that also stood quite shocking to me is that Sri Lanka has never won against us in a World Cup.
Oh,
7 times played, 7 wins.
So, I mean, hypothetically, that means if the game had happened in 2019, the one that washed away, we would have beat Sri Lanka.
I mean,
according to the numbers,
that's what the stats say. And I actually believe that as well. If the 2019 World Cup, a game against Sri Lanka was not rained out, we probably would have seen Pakistan edge slightly over New Zealand and make it to the semifinals. That would have been a different story and would have literally changed the course of Pakistan cricket. Now, that's something that we could do in a future series that we do have planned called What If. That is definitely a topic that we could, reflect further upon what happens if Pakistan make it through the semi. Do they win? Do they make it to the final? Do they win the whole thing? A Pandora's box that we don't really want to open, but definitely something to ponder upon. Yeah, and then everything else seems pretty normal in this category. Something that was shocking to me, which I have to give props to my Canadian brothers, the first World Cup they ever played was 1979.
Well, did they even have like cricket grounds here back in the day?
I don't know, man, but they played that World Cup, and that was the first time Pakistan and Canada played. They played twice, once in Mohali and once in England. Sorry, not Mohali, in the 2011 World Cup again.
The other thing is that West Indies, we've only won 3 games out of 11 times. So I understand in the beginning, like back in the 70s and 80s, West Indies had a really strong team, but off late, we got blown away by West Indies. Like if you look at the 2019 World Cup, 110 all out, I think Pakistan, one of the lowest ODIs World Cup scores, second lowest. And then 2015, it was also in the beginning where we got knocked over by them. And it's always those losses against West Indies that have cost us a spot to go forward in the World Cups. Luckily, thankfully for Pakistan, they're not in this World Cup.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because we've only had a 27% win percentage with them. And that's something to ponder upon, because they were the 75-79 winners of the World Cup back to back. First team to go back to back was the West Indies. And they were a formidable side. And they were just one of those teams that it was hard to get a win against them, especially in their home ground, especially in English conditions where the ball was seaming and swinging. They had like 4 of the fastest bowlers in the world in their team, and they were the starting 4. So it was impossible. And the 8-3 record shows that. I guess the West Indies not qualifying this World Cup, it's a shame, because they were always a delight, even if they were playing against us. It was always fun to play against them. But Pakistan would be happy that that's not the case. So you want to dive deep into the 75 World Cup?
Yeah, what happened? Who was the captain?
All right. So the 75 World Cup, the captain was Asif Iqbal. So we're going really like prehistoric. And I'm pretty sure the first couple of World Cups, we're going to run through it. It was more like a Group A, Group B situation. Only 8 teams played. And, Pakistan.
So 2 groups of 4. Every team plays 3 matches.
Yeah. Pakistan's group was Australia, West Indies, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan. Pakistan finished 3rd that year. And they lost against Australia and they lost against West Indies. But something to think about is the West Indies game that they lost against was only by a wicket. And it was right at the last over. And mind you, these World Cups were played for 60 overs. So every bowler could bowl 12 overs. And there was the same rules. It was just 10 overs extra. So, West Indies had to chase 268 in 60 overs. And Derek Murray, we couldn't get that last wicket, and he was the one who chased it over. Still, player of the match in that game was Sarfraz Nawaz. He took 4 for 44 in 12 overs. Majid Khan scored 60. He was the highest scorer of that World Cup for Pakistan. And then I think Sri Lanka, it was one of their first World Cups, one of their first times being an international side. And they were kind of like Kenya, Namibia, a really fresh, raw team. They got bowled out for 138, and Pakistan had scored 330 in 60 overs, and they just were
It's a
never
good score.
close. Yeah, big score.
Talk
but
about
again,
modern day cricket.
but again,
Back in the day.
it was in 60. It was in 60 overs, and you know what's crazy? Zaid Abbas scored 97 off 89, which is very modern day cricket. Like that's almost Virat Kohli-esque in terms of strike rate management when you're playing against a lower side. So, great Pakistani performance all around there. One thing also to note is that Imran Khan took 3 wickets for 15 in 7 overs, and that was when Imran Khan hadn't remodeled his action. It was his old slingy action, which was giving him 135, 140. He was more of like a
seam bowler.
Exactly, more
medium
like
paced,
Asif-esque. I want to say the word Munaf Patel because we've just seen him in the 2011 World Cup highlights that we were watching yesterday. But that's who he was. And then the 79-83 World Cup, just he's a completely different Imran Khan, right? He remodeled his action. He wants to become the fastest bowler in the world. His speed guns weren't really a thing then, so maybe he touched 150, 154. We don't know.
There's actually a video on YouTube where they did a speed test of all the fastest bowlers. I think this was in the 80s, mid to late 80s. So Dennis Lilly was in there. Michael Holding was there. Imran Khan was there. Sarfraz Nawaz was there. And back in the day, they used to measure the ball speed once it had gone past the wicket and to the keeper. So Imran Khan, I believe, if my memory serves right, was the second or third fastest. He clocked in 137 kilometers per hour. And it is understood that the speed increases 10 kilometers when it's recorded off the hands, which is what happens now. So technically, Imran Khan his speed was around 145, 150 kilometers an hour at best.
I sometimes think about what Imran Khan would have done in T20 cricket.
I was just thinking about that the other day.
Right? Like, that's insane. He was one of the greatest all-rounders ever. And we keep talking about how Pakistan doesn't have a fast bowling all-rounder. Imagine your fast bowling all-rounder, your peak fast bowling all-rounder is your captain, right? And it's like captain like Imran Khan, and he's clocking at 145, 150, opening the overs.
Swinging the ball both ways.
Could come down 5 down and give you a good like 30, 35 off like 15, 20 balls. Or just come 1 down and consolidate like Shahid Afridi did in the 2009 World Cup. Like the feeling is endless. And I also similarly think about Wasim Akram, because Wasim Akram, turned himself into an all-rounder. Greatest ODI player of all time, if not just for Pakistan, just for in general. Him in T20s would have been lethal, man.
I think Wasim Akram played one of the first T20 matches to ever happen in the UK when he was playing a county. This was, I believe, 2003 or 4, towards the back end of his career. I think the game's on YouTube on the ECB website. So again, I think if those players would have been active now, Wasim Akram for sure would have been one of the highest paid cricketers in any league that's possible.
Yeah, that's truly. And it's another good topic for the What If series, because genuinely we will never know. It's just not one of those things that we will ever find out. Another multiverse, maybe. I don't know. But the 1975 World Cup, this is how it played out. England, Australia, New Zealand, West Indies were the semifinalists. Australia beat England. They actually booked England for 93 all out, and then chased it in 6 over with 6 wickets down. And then West Indies beat New Zealand, 158 New Zealand all over, chased it with 5 wickets down. And then, as obvious, West Indies beats Australia and becomes the first cricket world champion. Something similar happens in the 79 World Cup as well, and we should get to that. Just give me a second. I'll slide that right down.
Yeah, so Asif Iqbal was captain again. This is crazy because stability in the Pakistan team, Asif Iqbal leading Pakistan to 2 World Cups. We're not used to that.
And that's also like in the 70s, which was like, if you talk about like what's going on politically in Pakistan, it's not too dissimilar to what it is right now. Lots of mayhem, lots of uncertainty politically, but then you have a sort of a core captain that's taking you through World Cup. Interesting times, definitely. And you also have to realize the late 70s was also a time where Imran Khan was grooming. He was starting to like rise up, becoming a household name. Definitely, becoming a heartthrob. Pakistan hadn't really seen that in the cricketing department since before. Before that, it was all like uncles and like, Intikhab Alam playing. Bro, that's another. No shots, Inti. Inti is one of the greatest managers Pakistan has ever had. But like, come on, bro. Like, heartthrob wasn't really a word that you associated with
Intikhab Alam.
That was unfair to Intikhab Alam, but oh well. So 1979, again, Asif Iqbal is the captain. Pakistan do really well this time. Again, it's the same Group A, Group B situation. 8 teams are playing. Um, you know what's weird? Canada, like we said, makes it to the top 8 this time. I don't know how. I was trying to research how that happened. I couldn't really, find a proper reason of why that was. But okay, Canada was making it the top 8. Didn't win a single game, if I'm being honest. But the top 2 from Group A were England and Pakistan, and top 2 from Group B were West Indies and New Zealand. Now Pakistan, this is what Pakistan does in the World Cup in 1979. They beat Canada, right? 139 all out. They beat Australia 197 all out when they were chasing 286, and they lose by England, which was a crazy innings from Graham Gooch, who basically sees that England goes over. They couldn't get the last wicket. Very Pakistan cricket of them to not be able to take on the last wicket, and they England wins by 14 runs. So that was the group stages, and then the star performances, in my opinion, Asif Iqbal, again, he is the captain, but we don't really hear a lot of stats coming out, he was the greatest of all time and all that, but definitely had a performance against Australia that saw Pakistan score 286 in 60 overs against, the craziness that was the Australian team in the late 70s. Another interesting name that we don't hear might quite often, Sikandar Bakht.
Bro, he had a weird bowling action.
Yo, I know. I saw that.
Crazy bowling action. I don't know.
He was he was in the leading wicket takers for that match against
Didn't
Australia.
you meet him?
Yeah, I just tweeted about this. I met him in Dubai Airport 2016, or was it Abu Dhabi Airport? One of those two. And I just met him at the gift counter, and I was like, yo, that's Sikandar Bakht. So I went up, I talked to him for 15, 20 minutes, and he was just bitching about team selections.
Yeah. You should have asked him whose agenda he's on.
No, he was just like a couple of people surrounded him. Like it was 3 or 4 of us just listening to him talk and like asking him questions and whatnot. He was coming from Chicago, and he was just like very upset about team selections and all that. This is also like 2016 was Azhar Ali era, so you probably got whipped from England that summer.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that's what he was upset about, rightly so. But yeah, Sikandar Bakht, now one of the most toxic people on Pakistan cricket board. So yeah, so Sikandar Bakht was the high scorer, 3 for 34 there. Another interesting thing, the England versus Pakistan game was washed out. A reserve day was used on June 13th. June 13th was washed out, and this was played on June 16th. So a washout has always been against Pakistan since the 70s. Like, modern memory serves us and really, pushes us against the wall when it comes to washouts. But, it's not been our friend ever. Pakistan played a semifinal against West Indies. The West Indian team was at that time was so formidable, man. One of the best always. Goes on to win the World Cup. Pakistan were chasing 293 in 60 overs, 250 all out. Zahir Abbas again scores 93. This is why he's called one of the greatest Pakistani batsmen of all time, because he was bowling against one of the fiercest bowling attacks in the world, against Australia, against West Indies. And he comes out and scores 93 off 122. Thoughts?
People who ever watched Zahir Abbas's batting have always mentioned how he had so much time, and the timing off of his bat was prolific. And I've seen some of his batting on YouTube, old footage, but he looks like a player that was probably a modern day great in his own time. Like, we hear about our dad talk about how great Zahir Abbas was. I don't think the stats are sort of there to support how great he was. Maybe he was one of those players that didn't really live up to his potential. But definitely, like, scoring that knock in England in a semifinal against a quality West Indian bowling lineup, because the West Indies bowling in that time was like 4 bowlers all over 6 feet, bowling lightning quick, line length. There was no let off. Like,
just 4 bowlers bowling around 90 or 90 plus at you.
Yeah.
And it's just insane. Like, how do you, at the time, what freaks me out is no helmets, bro.
No helmets.
There's no grill, so you're definitely seeing the ball a bit clearer, but there's no grill.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how are you facing that? It's insane. The balls that these players had, honestly. You were talking about Zahir Abbas. I just wanted to pull some stats. In ODI, Zahir Abbas played 60 innings to score 2,500 runs at an average of 47 at a strike rate of 85, man.
That's insane.
That's insane. So, he played from 74 to 85. That was his ODI stats.
Those are better stats than Ahmed Shahzad's. Ahmed Shahzad's career strike rate is like 72, I believe.
And his test match stats from 69 to 85. He plays 124 innings, and not outs are 11, 5,000 plus runs, 5,062 runs. High score of 274.
Yeah, he said it was
and average of 44.79, so almost 45. 1200s, 2050s, all around class performer. Most centuries against India. 6 centuries in tests.
I think they may have just also begun because of how frequently they play each other back in the day. Like they will probably have series where India is coming to Pakistan is going to India. So frequent matches against India.
Also, another thing I wanted to point out in the 1979 World Cup, your strike bowlers, Imran Khan and Sarfraz Nawaz.
Legends, man. They're like the inventors of reverse swing, Sarfraz Nawaz.
Yeah. And so like you have that's the bowling you're also facing. So it gets better for Pakistan as the years go by, but 79 was definitely a good challenge, especially when you get knocked out in 75 in the first round. 79 semifinal against West Indies, who go on to win. Not a bad move. All right, so we're moving down to the 83 World Cup, which is famous because of Kapil Dev, KD83, Chen Kuli Ki Main Kuli. You know what I'm talking about.
Did you watch the movie?
Of course, we watched it together so many times.
No, did you watch the 83 movie that just came out recently?
So I passively watched the 83 movie. The guy who I was sitting next to on the plane was watching it, and I have airplane anxiety, as you know, and so I was just like passively watching and reading the subtitles. It kind of made me laugh because they sort of made Kapil Dev into an Imran Khan-esque figure, which I don't think is really up to par of what Kapil Dev actually was. But, kudos to them for trying to make Kapil Dev into a hero. 83 was, again, similar format where Pakistan were playing, two groups, groups A and B, and Pakistan played Sri Lanka. Pakistan played 6 matches. I think everybody was playing everybody twice. That's how it was. And Pakistan played 6 matches, won 3, lost 3. On net run rate, they were above New Zealand, which is ironic because 2019. And net run rate, they were above New Zealand, and they made it to the semis. Star performers, lots of Zahir Abbas again was great against the English bowlers.
Zahir Abbas against Sri Lanka was also pretty good.
Yeah, Zahir Abbas scored a lot of runs.
338, man, in 60 overs.
Yeah, Zahir Abbas against New Zealand, if you see, he scored an unbeaten 103. Where Mudassir Nazar was a strike bowler for Pakistan. He took 3 for 43.
You're kidding me.
Shout out to Mudassir Nazar, my guy. Slowest century in Test history or something like that.
Was that him?
That was him. Yeah, slowest century in Test history, something like that.
Guy, not a record I would brag about.
I think it was either the most balls or the most amount of time. To score a century. The match I wanted to sort of fixate on a little bit, just if you were talking about the greatest of all time, Pakistan versus Sri Lanka on 16 June 1983. Imran Khan scores an unbeaten 102, and who's the leading wicket taker for Pakistan? Abdul Qadir takes 5 for 44.
AQ.
Man, that scorecard just gives me goosebumps. Pakistan again make it to the semifinals and again lose to the mighty West Indies, man.
I think that's just unlucky, man. Like, you're constantly being put up against the West Indies, which is in its prime and sort of undefeatable in that whole era.
Yeah, Pakistan struggled to score 184 and West Indies beat you by 8 wickets with 12 overs to spare.
Dominance.
That's complete dominance.
Another crazy stat that I was just looking at, because I was just hearing Viv Richards on Shane Watson's podcast on Spotify, where they were just discussing what, the mental game of how much cricket is. And it made me go back to Cricinfo and just look at Viv Richards' stats, because everybody in that era, 80s, 90s, the greatest player of all time, they keep saying it's Viv Richards. And now I know why. Because this man who played in the 70s, 80s, 90s, his strike rate is 90.2, which is absolutely insane. That's what strike rates of modern day batsmen are today. 187 ODIs, 6,721 runs, 47 average, 1100s, 45 50s, and strike rate of 90.2.
Crazy, man. 45 50s, man. Those almost Tendulkar-esque numbers. That's why he's Sir Vivian Richards. Sir, he was knighted because of just his performance for cricket. And
it was also the swagger he had. Like, he's coming in, chewing his chewing gum. And Viv Richards, there was a time in cricket where helmets eventually came on, but Viv Richards decided not to wear a helmet because that was against his pride, and he wanted to sort of come on the crease with a statement, fearless attitude, and making sure that he's not wearing a helmet even against the fastest of fastest bowlers. He's even gotten hit in the jaw once, but shrugged it off.
Also, that was a time where you could bowl as many bouncers as you wanted in and over as well.
Yeah.
And like just thinking about that just gives me shivers because firstly we think about Phil Hughes, rest in peace, like what happened there. Like thank God none of that happened during that time. But these just men were built differently, man. These men were built absolutely differently. You were talking about Pakistan always meeting West Indies in the semifinals, especially in the late 70s, early 80s. And it reminds me of the Raptors just not being able to beat LeBron for so many years. And you know what's shocking? The year that LeBron moves to the Lakers, Raptors win a chip.
Nice.
That's that's the complete like correlation is so evident there that the Raptors just could not get through LeBron. And the joke was that Toronto used to be called LeBronto because LeBron would just like meet him in the playoffs and I'm ruling over you. Same thing with West Indies in Pakistan, like 2 semifinals, 2 washouts, like complete dominance. This is the bowling lineup for West Indies in the 1983 World Cup. Ready? Andy Roberts, Joel Gardner, Malcolm Marshall, Michael Holding, the greatest of all time, Larry Gomes.
Joel Gardner was like 7 feet. He was the Mohammed Irfan before Mohammed Irfan was a thing.
Like, that's your top 4, man. Andy Roberts, Joel Gardner, Malcolm Marshall, Michael Holding. All 4 Hall of Famers in ICC cricket legend. That's who you're up against. And it's not like 1 or 2 of them like dominated. They all chipped in. The match against Pakistan, Andy Roberts takes 2 for 25. Joel Gardner takes 1 for 31. Malcolm Marshall takes 3 for 28. Michael Holding comes for 1 for 25. And Larry Gomes takes 1 for 29. Everybody's coming in, pitching in. It's not one dominant performance.
It's an incredible West Indian team. If you look at their batting as well, I think this is what makes India's win in '83 such a special one because they're underdogs. They're up against a West Indian team who is looking to make a hat trick of World Cup wins. They've won 2 World Cups. They're in their 3rd final in a row. And for India to come back and win the match, because I'm looking at the scorecard, they were all up for 183. Their top scorer was Srikanth, who scored 38. And so they just made it to 138 all out, 183 all out. And West Indies batting.
You're talking about India?
I'm talking about the final in 83.
The Indian final, yeah.
Gordon Greenwich is there, Desmond Haynes, Viv Richards, Clive Lloyd, Larry Gomes. This is an incredible West Indian team.
All of them feel like Hall of Famers to me.
I think they all have thousands of runs and many, many hundreds. But a couple, Dave takes a wicket. Sandhu takes 2 wickets. Madan Lal, we see him on TV, takes 3 wickets. And Mohinder Amarnath takes 3 for 12 and 7 overs. He is the man of the match.
Like that, genuinely, an underdog story like no other. What would be comparable today? Like Australia versus which team in the finals would you say that's a comparable example of this match?
I would say maybe like a West Indies. Like a West Indies of today's era where, they're not strongest, but somehow they come out and win.
Or like a Sri Lanka even.
Yeah.
Australia versus Sri Lanka and Sri Lanka find a way to win. That's a very good example. Because
I think another thing which makes the myth of 1983 so big is because for some reason the game wasn't really televised or there's no recording of that match.
No, I believe there is. It's not.
There's something where there's no record of that match happening. Like I've never seen that match. I've never seen highlights of it.
No, I've seen highlights.
You've seen highlights?
There are highlights for sure. I remember there are.
I don't think they are. Fact check me. Laptop in front of you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not gonna fact check you, but I'll just do a quick Google search. Let's see if there's any YouTube, because there are videos of him lifting the World Cup 1983 World Cup final highlights. If I'm pulling it up on YouTube, there definitely is something to look at. What am I looking at here?
Because from what I've heard,
there are highlights, bro.
Okay,
definitely highlights.
Okay, I could be wrong.
Yeah, definitely, bro. 1983 isn't like 1685. Like, what are you talking? Where did you hear that rumor from?
Because it was similar where, because nobody's really seen something happened with the broadcast. Someone fact check me, let me know in the comments. But something happened with the broadcast where either there's no highlights available, something happened with the game. I've heard this many times.
Okay, well, I haven't heard this, and there's like at least a 15-minute highlight reel on YouTube available. So Bashar, whoever is feeding these corrupt information to you,
Yari Sports
is trying to mythicize this even more. So yeah, semifinal 1983, Pakistan's knocked out. This is, I believe, the first World Cup where Imran Khan is captain. So we finally risen to the point where Imran Khan now, where he fulfills his legacy 2 World Cups later, where Imran Khan becomes captain, takes Pakistan to the semifinals and gets knocked out against West Indies. 87 is here now. Now, 87 World Cup is my World Cup where I think that is an opportunity missed. That is truly the first time Pakistan should have won a World Cup where they didn't win a World Cup. And 92 should have been back to back. I'll tell you why. Ready for the stats, bro?
Go.
87 was played in Pakistan, India.
Home conditions.
Home conditions. Pakistan knows really well, how to play in those conditions. They've played there many times before. They were favorites to win. This is a World Cup that has a peak Javed Mirdad. It has a peak Imran Khan. I believe Waqar Yunus played this World Cup, if I'm wrong.
No, he did not.
Okay, maybe Waqar Yunus didn't play, but
Wasim Akram was up and coming.
Wasim Akram was upcoming. Abdul Qadir was at his peak. Like, this was a World Cup where Pakistan had all the right numbers and all the right backings to it. And I'll tell you why. Pakistan plays 6 matches in its group matches, right? Pakistan wins 5 of them and loses in 1.
They beat West Indies in the group match.
They beat West Indies in the group match. Pakistan won by 1 wicket, but it's enough because they finally are able to beat the mighty West Indies at a World Cup. In Gaddafi, in Lahore. Salim Yusuf is the man of the match. This is the first World Cup also that has a 50-over edition. That's important to mention. First World Cup to have 50 overs in it after the 1983
Why
World
do you
Cup.
think they cut down the overs?
I think they just in the 80s, I think having a fast-paced, exciting game meant having 50 overs in innings, which is crazy to think now that 20 overs is the benchmark, where we're talking about ODI, this format being too long. And I was actually, it's one of those things that I wanted to talk to you about briefly. I know this is not the podcast to do it because we're reviewing Pakistan performances, but I think one of the ways to make ODI cricket relevant is to bring it down to 40 overs a side. Because you have T20, which is the most popular format right now. ODI should just be a double of that. T40, right? ODI cricket becomes 40 overs. We have precedents of it going down from 60 to 50. 50 to 40 seems like the gradual fit. It still has the essence of an ODI World Cup. Oh, sorry. It still has the essence of an ODI game. Just, you finish 2 hours early. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. I think 50 overs is very long, especially because of the influx of T20s. We're also used to 3.5 hours, action-packed, high octane, high energy, lots happening. And then to go from that to 50 overs per innings is crazy because we're just not used to it. And secondly, I think it just takes like 7.5 hours. It's a huge chunk of it's like 1/3 of your day. If you're working 9 to 5 and then the game starts at 5 p.m., that's another job that you have where it goes from 5 to 12. So I think it might spark a better interest in ODIs. I know a lot of people just watch the first 10 overs. They watch passively for the next 30 overs, and then they watch the death overs and rinse and repeat for the
I think
second
you're being
innings.
a little bit harsh. I think the first 15 are very exciting. And then from 15 to 35, 38 becomes a bit of a slog for most people. I personally enjoy it, especially if like in a match against India where India were 66-4. I love to see that rebuild because that rebuild happens between 15 and 35, right? So definitely something to talk about. 40 overs does seem a bit more appealing. Doesn't really change stats that much. Okay, you lose 10 overs, so maybe you'll see a lot less centuries, but that's still enough time. If you really want to hit a century, you can. It doesn't really matter in the larger scheme of things. Something to think about for sure. Going back to the 87 World Cup, we only lost the 1 game, and it was against West Indies in the group stages. One thing to note, 2 of the 6 games played, Ramiz Raja was the top scorer. He scored 70 against West Indies, and he scored 113 against England in Karachi, National Stadium, Karachi. Your top bowlers also, shockingly, or unshockingly, I should say, Imran Khan has 2 top slots, 4 for 37 against West Indies, the game that Pakistan won. Shout out to IK. And 4 for 37 again against England. And he was also the player of the match for that game. Like, crazy stats for my boy here. Wasim Akram played the 87 World Cup. He was an up-and-comer. He wasn't really Wasim Akram yet. Think 2009 Muhammad Amir. That's very reminiscent of a 1987 Wasim Akram, would you say?
That's a good comparison because I think 87, he was new in the team, still learning the tricks and traits from Imran Khan being under his wing and Javed Mirdad. So for him to be in this team bowling with Imran, playing under his captaincy. I think we saw the prime Wasim Akram in 92, 96.
Yep.
But he was still pretty young in this World Cup. Probably his first World Cup, right? So
yes, his first World Cup.
Getting that experience of playing big matches in a World Cup, it's totally different pressure and ball game.
So let me relay the Pakistan team to you, and you'll see how many of these transfer over to the 92 World Cup, which is the seminal World Cup for Pakistani fans. Ramiz Raja and Mansoor Akhtar are openers. Salim Malik is your first down. Javed Miadad is your second down. He plays at number 4. Ijaz Ahmed plays at 5. Khan Saab, Imran Khan plays at 6, and he's the captain. Salim Yusuf is your wicketkeeper, plays at 7. Wasim Akram, at that time, is not an all-rounding batsman at all, but he comes and plays at number 8. Abdul Qadir, Tawseef Ahmed, and Salim Jaffer are your tail, basically. So that's a formidable side. Like that's half of these people going on to play 92 and win. Abdul Qadir was one of those people that was a big dent for Imran Khan. He says it so many times. Abdul Qadir and Waqar Yunus not being in 92 was a huge dent for Imran Khan and the team. They had to really use other players coming in. I believe Ijaz Ahmed was bowling at some point in 92.
But they brought in Mushtaq Ahmed as a replacement because he had a very good googly, very similar replacement to Abdul Qadir, and he took some crucial wickets for Pakistan in that World Cup.
Yeah, for sure. And then Pakistan go on and make the semifinals. They're playing against Australia. And now this is where things kind of go awry. They're playing at Gaddafi Stadium, which is Imran Khan's home stadium. They choose to, I believe, bowl first. Let me see who won the toss here.
Australia elected to bat first.
Yeah, Australia elected to bat first. They put 267 up in 50 overs, which is a good total. Even today, honestly, that's a really good total. But Pakistan failed to really stand out. And
Salim Jaffer gets hit for 57 in 6 overs. That's insane.
9.5
9.5.
Salim Jaffer. That's Salim. That's not the fixer, right? Is he?
No.
Who's that?
Who's the fixer? That's Salim Malik.
Salim Malik. My bad. I got my Salims mixed up. Don't at me. But Imran Khan, like he's still one of the best of all time. Take 10 overs, 1 maiden, 36 for 3. That's what he does. Salim Jaffer gets whacked. Very Umar Gul 2011 performance in the semifinals. Reminiscent. My boy Wasim gets smacked. 10 overs, 54, no wickets. Abdul Qadir tries to maintain himself. 10 overs, 39, no wickets. Tawseef Ahmed takes a wicket, and Salim Malik takes a wicket. So, speaking of Salim Malik, by the way, speaking of Salim Malik, he takes a wicket, but not really. Pakistan didn't really show up in the bowling department. I don't know why. Only Imran Khan really making an impact. Everybody just got whacked. When you come to the batting performance, Pakistan were 2 down by 37. There were 38 for 3. Pakistan was. Salim Malik, I don't know what he did there, but he goes out for 25. My boy Imran Khan has 58 for 84, and Javed Miadad has a 70. They stuck up a 121 partnership, which is crazy because that's something similar, Bashar, what they do in the final 4 years later. So it's something to think about there. And then after Imran Khan goes out, it's a shit show. Everybody collapses. 249 is what we made, and we got knocked out. I genuinely believe if Pakistan had seen themselves through, that's the World Cup that Pakistan would have won first.
I think Imran Khan, if you look at his career and probably how he wanted his career to go, he wanted to win that World Cup and wanted to retire at the peak of his powers because he really was.
He genuinely was.
At his bowling and batting peak. His all-round capabilities, he had maxed them out. And I think losing that semifinal, a lot of players talk about how depressing that was and how much of a dent it caused in their confidence. And eventually Imran Khan did go on to retire back in 88, I believe, until he was requested by the president at the time.
Who was? Are you blanking on the name?
Yeah.
Was it the president who asked him to come back?
Who was the military guy?
Oh, man. You know what? People already know who asked him to come back, which is crazy. I'm going to do a quick Google.
What Ul Haq was that, right? Ziaul Haq. Ziaul Haq asked him to come back, and he came back. And he came back for, I think, that the series we had against West Indies, a very tough series back in the day. But then Imran Khan goes on to fulfill his vision of winning the World Cup in 1992 against all odds in Australia.
How wonderful would it have been if Pakistan actually did win in 87 with the star-studded performances that they were giving? I mean, the only game they lost against in the round robin was against West Indies, which was the greatest team of all time ever put together, and they barely lost. And then they lost in the semifinals against Australia, where they just weren't able to chase. Chasing has been our sort of demise since we started playing cricket, and it just seems like it keeps following us.
I think that's a good what if question. Like, what if Imran Khan had won in '87, retired, and that would have had a domino effect on Pakistan history.
Just in general, right?
Because you would never have seen an Inzamam ul Haq. Inzamam ul Haq was picked and played in the World Cup by Imran Khan. It was his captaincy that made him persist in Inzamam's match-winning abilities. There's a famous story where Javed Miandad had critiqued Imran Khan and asked him to drop Inzamam ul Haq because he was a flaw player. They tried him in domestic cricket, and he was a no-show. But Imran Khan, stuck to his decisions, and eventually Inzamam ul Haq was the difference in that semi-final against New Zealand. And the final, he scored a great cameo in the end.
Like you're right, that changes everything. Because then,
and also his captaincy, right? Bringing Wasim Akram back in the final to get those 2 wickets of Alan Lamb and Chris Lewis.
Yep.
So that's just the part. That's such an important, integral part of Pakistan cricket history. That spell,
and then just Pakistan history itself. Like in '87, if Imran Khan retires as the champ, does Shaukat Khan ever get built? Does he ever start his political career? Does he ever become prime minister? Like those are questions that genuinely will remain unanswered because '87 didn't happen the way it should have or was supposed to.
So at this point, we're transcending Pakistan cricket history and we're going into the history of the country itself.
Politics, like in general, everything just changes completely. If '87 World Cup is the World Cup that Pakistan wins as its inaugural World Cup, but it would have been crazy good, man. Like winning in Lahore in Gaddafi, like I guess Australia can say that, India can say that, England can say that. Winning at home is a completely different feeling. We'll never know. We'll never know. At least for us, in the history has proven that we won't know. We haven't known.
We gotta wait till the 2025 Champions Trophy.
Oh, whoa. Well, let's hold our horses on that. I want to take us back to 1992, which is the greatest cricketing moment for Pakistanis all around the world to this day. 2009 happened, 2017 happened, but if you had to pinpoint a moment in history where everything sort of changed, where the winning attitude came into the Pakistan team, it was 1992. Well documented. The group stages were extremely well documented. Was this the first time that Pakistan played India in a World Cup?
I believe it was. Yes, because it was a first World Cup where they were, I believe,
playing round robin. Everybody.
Yes.
So now, up until 1992, allegedly Pakistan has not played India in a World Cup, which is crazy to think about now because that is the most billed event in sports history. Everybody wants to see a Pakistan-India game. Everybody wants to go around and watch Pakistan play India in any sort of capacity, be it the Asia Cup, be it the World Cup. They're literally trying to forge these reasons for these two teams to meet. And up until 1992, they hadn't played themselves in a World Cup. That just shows the different dynamics that we're living in today.
And also, like, if a 92 World Cup team, the World Cup winning team cannot beat India, how can we expect other teams to do well? It's crazy because there's been other World Cups where we've done really well, but somehow we've still lost to India in those World Cups. So I think it's still the beginning of just taking in the pressure of a World Cup match against India, the media pressure, the consequences of losing. I don't think it was until maybe the 2017 Champions Trophy or even the 2021 T20 World Cup match where the boys had finally overcome the fear of playing against India and performing and bringing out their best match. The crazy thing that I'm noticing about the 1992 World Cup, Pakistan qualifies. They play 8 matches, they win 4, and they've tied with Australia and the West Indies for matches won. They've all 3 of these teams have won 4 matches, and Pakistan goes through to the semis based off of net run rate and a net run rate of 0.11. That helps them go past Australia and play the semis.
People ask me, what is Pakistan cricket math? This is Pakistan cricket math. Right here.
That is ridiculous to me.
That technicality they got over. I mean, it's true. I mean, according to the stats, Pakistan lost less games than Australia and West Indies. Like, that's just a fact.
And on top of that, Pakistan is then put up against a New Zealand team who has won 7 games out of 8. They're looking like the best team in the tournament. They've hardly been beaten. And they're facing New Zealand in New Zealand against an informed New Zealand team that has, one of their best players, Martin Crowe, Danny Morrison is in there. They're playing at a very small ground, tough seeming and swinging conditions.
Martin Crowe was the player of that tournament, just by the way. He
Yeah.
scored 456 runs in that tournament. And even though he didn't make it to the finals, he still was the player. That's the impact of his performances on that World Cup.
I believe he was also the captain of that team.
Sure, yeah.
I think he had a hamstring pull in the second innings and he had to go off. And their vice captain was captaining. So he made some errors while captaining, which also helped Pakistan chase the score down eventually.
So we'll just run through the games, and I think everybody's been waiting for this because 1992 is genuinely one of those World Cups that, on Eid they used to play the games of the World Cup on like Geo News, Geo Super, and like all the sports channels because that's how happy it made everybody. Just watching the highlights of that World Cup on Eid. That's the momentous occasion and the joy that this World Cup gives the Pakistani people. So we're just gonna run through the scorecards of the group games. Pakistan plays his first game against West Indies in Melbourne. West Indies kicked their ass. West Indies beat Pakistan by 10 wickets. Ramiz Raja's century goes in vain. Wasim Akram is the best bowler, takes 37 for no wickets in 10 overs. Tough one. Brian Lara is man of the match. I actually want to open up the scorecard here and see how much everybody scored because Desmond Haynes scored 93 runs off 114 not out. But what really did Lara do? Lara scored 88 off 101. Retired hurt, and he opened the innings as well. So that's just Lara being Lara back in the 90s. I think this was the first World Cup that Lara played.
In the early 90s, Brian Lara used to open the innings.
Strike rate of 87, by the way.
Yeah, when I met him in 2016 in person at his house while I was touring Trinidad, I asked him, hey, Brian, you eventually, you went on to play at number 4, number 3. What did you like better? Did you like opening the innings or did you like playing in the middle order? And he said, obviously, I liked opening the innings because you have full 50 overs to score all the runs. But number 4 wasn't that bad either. But Brian Lara was a prodigy, man. I think that was his first World Cup. And he went on to eventually be one of West Indies' best players of all time.
One of the greatest batsmen of all time.
Yeah.
You would be remiss, at least in a test match, all-time 11, to not put Brian Lara in it. You would actually be making the biggest blunder ever because he was just one of those players that greatest of all time, like we said. I just want to quickly mention the Pakistani bowling. Wasim Akram, Aqib Javed were the strike bowlers. Wasim Haider, Ijaz Ahmed, Iqbal Sikandar, and Amir Sohail bowled in that game against West Indies. One thing we noticed in this World Cup is that Imran Khan, I believe, was 41.
No.
Or was he 38?
He was in his late 30s.
Late 30s.
Yeah.
He had a shoulder rupture.
Yeah.
And so,
ruptured cartilage in his shoulder.
Yes. So that's a World Cup where Imran Khan didn't bowl as much. We saw a batting all-rounder, if anything, from Imran Khan. Imran Khan was basically there as a batting captain. That's what his role was. And which is inspiring to see because you'll see a lot of these matches where Wasim and Aqib are opening the bowling, but like Imran Khan doesn't bowl at all. And that's just one thing I wanted to point out because you're going to see this quite often as we go through the games.
Imran Khan was getting overs out of Ijaz Ahmed, Amir Sohail, Salim Malik. Because I think one of the important things to mention is that Waqar Yunus had a lower back stress fracture before the World Cup. Saeed Anwar, Pakistan's star opening batsman, was also injured. So
Abdul Qadir was gone.
Yeah, losing 2 of your main players before the World Cup was a huge blow. But despite that, Imran Khan still believed.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, he genuinely believed. Like, it's not history myth now, but it's genuinely something that people attribute that win to his dedication. The next game was Pakistan against Zimbabwe. Pakistan thrashed Zimbabwe in Hobart. Pakistan against England. That's the game, Bashar. That was the no result. Got rained out. Pakistan were 74 all out. Bowled out. This is hilarious. Because now I'm thinking about what would have actually happened. 74 all out Pakistan and England are 24 for 1 in 8 overs. And the match gets rained out.
This
0.11 run rate is what made us pull through and make it to the semis. 0.11.
If you're an atheist, just convert at this point.
March 1st.
This is godly. Something heaven sent help Pakistan tie this match.
March 1st, 1992 should be the greatest day of Pakistani cricket ever. So Pakistan lose no result against England. Pakistan loses against India. First World Cup loss, one of many World Cup losses. Sachin Tendulkar's first World Cup scores 54. against Pakistan, not out. Man of the match as well. South Africa against Pakistan. This is where things start getting turned around. South Africa still wins this, but this is where Inzamam sort of shows up. Imran Khan, we see him bowl as well. He bowls a full 10 overs, takes 2 for 34. Inzi comes in, scores at 48 off of 44. Brand new Inzi, baby Inzi, but like, you know what? This is what it was all for. Pakistan versus Australia. There's just asterisk here. It says when Pakistan was 74 for 2 after 21.3 overs, rain halted the play for an hour and the target was revised to 194 in 36 overs. DLS method, if you want to talk about it. Pakistan won by 48 runs. They were not able to, Australia was not able to chase it. Dean Jones scored 47, rest in peace. Akib with 3 for 21, and Amir Suhail took 70, scored 76 off 104 balls. Amir Suhail was the man of the match. This is where Pakistan started turning stuff around, which that's what I was talking about. Pakistan beat Sri Lanka next. And Javed Midal is the man of the match for his blistering 57 off 84 and at the Waqar. And then Pakistan also beat New Zealand. Now, this is the only
game they've lost. Yeah,
exactly. The only loss of New Zealand in the World Cup in the round robin stage was against Pakistan. And guess who they play in the semifinals, man? I think this is the moment that Pakistan were to believe that they would be able to bring down the mighty New Zealand and Martin Crowe. Because Danny Morrison takes 3 for 42, one of our greatest commentators alive. Ramiz Raja's 119 does not go in vain, not out. I mean, we make fun of Rambo a lot. There are people who are fans of his commentary, people who dismiss his commentary, dismiss him as a person. I think he has services to the Pakistan cricket team that we will owe him forever.
He has the most hundreds for Pakistan and ODI World Cups.
Exactly. And not only that, I genuinely believe he's a pretty good commentator. From what we have, the batch, he does a solid job.
Ramiz is the voice of Pakistan cricket.
Yeah. And some people take offense to that. Like, oh my God, he's just like, he's not a really good commentator. One of my favorite podcasts that we listen to is Butterfast. And Butterfast people are not really fans of Ramiz either. But again, Ramiz was the difference between New Zealand and Pakistan in that 1992 game in the group stages. He scored 119 not out. Pakistan beat them by 7 wickets. Convincing win. Was took 4 for 32 in 9.2 overs. And this is where I think Pakistan starts to believe, Bashar, that they're going to win. What do you think? Round robin stages, Pakistan 92 World Cup.
I think Pakistan, whenever they have a sniff of knowing that it's knockout stage now, we got to win to go through, they start to bring out their best game. And I think here, Pakistan sort of knew what the equation is, that they had to beat all the teams to go forward towards the semis. Simple equation. They beat an informed New Zealand team, which is the best team of the tournament. And they eventually qualify for the semis. Pakistan persists with Inzamam ul Haq, who plays a blinder. The probably one of his best knocks, maybe one of the best knocks for Pakistan in a World Cup. That's 60 off 37 balls.
Like even to this day, that if any player played that knock in this day and age, that would be one of the greatest knocks. 60 off 37 at that time, where scoring in the middle overs was literally like, it seemed like you were doing something illegal if you were trying to go even run a ball. This guy comes out, this fresh off the boat kid comes off, scores a blistering 180 strike rate, 50, changes the course of the game, man.
Cut
Completely.
shots, sweep shots, inside out shots.
Modern day cricket. Genuine modern day cricket.
And I think it's only fitting that Inzamam, if I may recall, was run out in this match.
I'm just double checking that, but that might actually be true.
My if memory serves right.
Run out by Harris.
Iconic. Inzamam has to do that.
He has to do that.
It won't be Inzi if it's not run out.
It solidifies the myth and the man, the myth, and the legend is all solidified in this one performance. One thing I also wanted to note: Imran Khan comes to bowl. He's the second change. So Wasim and Akib are attacking. Mushtaq comes in after them, and then Imran comes, and then he gets a few overs off of Iqbal Sikandar and Amir Suhail. Like just the captaincy, trying to maneuver this insanity,
and also using wicket taking options, because he always looked at leg spinners as a wicket taking option. And you only win matches by taking wickets, unlike others who believe that stopping the run rate with Fahim Ashraf is very important.
Wow. This guy just attacked Babar. Bro, what is wrong with you, bro? I you know what? Fire emojis for Bashar. Fire. If you're listening to this podcast, and I know people start enjoying this, fire emojis for him. The wrath of Babar Azam fans on Bashar right now. Crazy. So Pakistan win the semifinal, beat New Zealand, a crazy win. And they go into the finals. Who do they who do they play the finals against, Bashar? And
England.
You know who they are.
England, the inventors of this game.
Yeah, the people who invented cricket, they are the finalists, and Pakistan play them. And it's very well documented what happens. I'm just gonna open up the scorecard just so I can follow along because this is gonna be great. Pakistan, who wins the toss in this one?
I think Pakistan wins the toss. They bat first. Imran Khan walks out with the corner tiger shirt.
Is this the first appearance of the corner tiger shirt?
I think it came out actually before that. It came out against the game in Australia where we saw the corner tiger for the first time ever, and we saw. I think the Ian Chappell was the broadcaster at the time who asked him what does a tiger mean, and he he mentioned that he wants his team to play like corner tigers when it's at their most dangerous.
Insane imagery. Just like thinking about that gives me goosebumps. So yeah, Pakistan win the toss. Amir Zura gets out for 4, Amir Raja for 8. And then in walks Imran Khan, and Imran Khan and Javed Miandad basically have a partnership of 141 runs for the 3rd wicket. That's the partnership that puts Pakistan on the map. Inzi comes out, scores 42 off 35, 4 beautiful 4s. Vaz comes out, scores 33 off 18.
Important cameo.
Now that's sort of what the matchups now what are called matchups now, right? In T20 cricket, you come out, you just want to score a good quick cameo, and then you're out of there. That's what Vaz did, playing modern day cricket in 1992. Gets run out. Salim Malik, nothing, not out for his 1. And Pakistan scored 249 for 6, which I think if you're in the moment live, I feel like you feel like 249 is a good total. What do you think?
With our bowling attack, I think in the final chasing, I think that's a respectable total.
Well, Graham Gooch comes out. Wasim Akram takes the first wicket. Ian Botham goes really early. I believe it's in the 3rd over. And then Alex Stewart sort of steadies the ship, gets out early as well. And then in the middle, Neil Fairbrother and Alan Lamb are the ones who are sort of taking it on. And then comes the bowling switch that Imran Khan does. The beautiful captaincy. Wasim Akram comes, bowls Alan Lamb. Chris Lewis comes, bowls Chris Lewis as well. And from there on, it just seems like England are not able to return. Mushtaq Ahmed comes, takes out Dermot Reeve. Everybody else after that, Salim Malik and Moin Khan do a, run out, Phil DeFreitas. Richard Illingworth is the last person to get out, which is the iconic moment where Imran Khan, of all people, is bowling. Rambo takes the catch. It's all over. Pakistan win the World Cup.
In front of 87,000 people.
And I was just quoting the commentators. It's all over. Pakistan wins the World Cup. And then the moment in my head that's like sort of stapled is like Imran Khan lifting that World Cup, the gold globe in silver and crystal, just lifting it up. Just iconic in all regards.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the most historic moments for Pakistan. The trophy is still there in Gaddafi Stadium. Would love to go and look at it alongside the 09 T20 World Cup and the CT17 Champions Trophy World Cup.
Hands down. This was the last time Pakistan had actually anything to truly cheer about. It's all downhill from here, Bashar. I hope you know how the story goes after this. So after this, Pakistan going to the 1996 World Cup. It's the first World Cup that Wasim Akram is the captain of. And this is the last World Cup for the legend, the man, the myth, the legend, Javed Miandad. He has the most appearances in Cricket World Cups for Pakistan. He has the most matches, most runs, like most everything. Legend of the game. And Cricket World Cup is sort of his forte. Pakistan, pretty good. Do pretty good in this World Cup. Round robin matches, again, Group A, Group B situations. Pakistan has a 4-for-1 rate. They've beat everyone except South Africa. South Africa in 96 was an insane team. The 90s South African team doesn't get as much credit, maybe because they didn't really win anything. People keep remembering the 99 semifinal, which South Africa just choked, and then they got that tag. But South Africa was a formidable side. Wasim Akram is captaining. He's feeling good. They're in the semis, and they're in the playoffs, and they're playing the quarterfinals. And guess who they're playing against, Bashar?
India.
Where are they playing?
Is it Chennai?
Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bangalore. Umpire Steve Buckner and Dave Shepard. I just wanted to mention that because Steve Buckner is an OG as well. And Pakistan failed to chase 287.
Insane. Thoughts? Because firstly, getting scored for 287 for 8 was crazy. Your prime bowler Waqar Yunus gets smacked in the last 4 to 5 overs. Ajay Jadeja plays an insane cameo, knocks Pakistan all over the place.
Ajay scored 45 off 25, 4 fours and 2 sixes.
Yeah,
Insane
that I
innings.
think was a game-changing knock. Even though it was a flat pitch, Pakistan had an incredible start. Amir Sohail and Saeed Anwar took the counter-attack to India, smacking boundaries all over the place, and it looked like Pakistan might chase this with overs to spare and wickets in hand.
Yeah.
But Pakistan, being Pakistan, it was that moment between Amir Sohail and Venkatesh Prasad where
One of the most iconic moments, by the way.
one of the most iconic, exactly. He hits Venkatesh Prasad for a boundary, shows him the bat, points that he's going to hit him again, and gets knocked over to the next ball, and then just wickets keep falling, pressure keeps mounting, the run rate keeps climbing, and Pakistan sort of never comes back into the match. Saeed departs. We lose Ijaz Ahmed as well. Javed Mirdad is playing a nothing knock.
That's what I'm saying. Javed Mirdad's knock is probably the reason why Pakistan weren't really able to qualify, because everybody tries to come in and pitch something. Like Salim Malik plays something, Javed Mirdad plays something, Rashid Latif is there trying to do something. But Javed Mirdad scores 38 off 64 when you're chasing 280 at a strike rate of 59. Like nothing innings. Like I don't know what happened to him there. Complete brain fade for him. Reminds me of, now again, I don't want to put Javed Mirdad and Misbah Haq in the same category, but Misbah Haq's innings in the 2011 semifinal, we're gonna get to it. We're almost there. Very similar.
Yeah.
You know, Javed Mirdad sort of at the tail end of his career, Misbah at his prime. So I don't know if you can really do the comparison there, but man, just the curse continues. It almost seems like Pakistan, with the greatest side ever in '92, who wins, not able to beat India. '96, a very promising side with some, player in the twilight eras and some players just coming in, making it their own, not able to do it.
There's something to be said about having included Javed Mirdad in that World Cup. He was sort of probably way past his best. Pakistan made the same mistake by adding Saeed Anwar at the 2003 World Cup squad. Even though he scored 100 against India in that World Cup match, it was still a slow 100 considering the conditions, considering how flat the pitch was, how quick the outfield was. And Pakistan again makes the same mistake by putting Shoaib Malik in the 2019 World Cup squad. No show, total flop in the whole tournament. So sometimes I don't think experience is the answer. Sometimes you have to put in young, exciting players in the deep end and ask them to swim.
Just like we are in 2023, bro.
Yes.
I'm trying to bring it back with the Babar stance.
ABD.
Because ABD, that's the answer. We're trying to fast forward this because I don't want to think more about the '96 quarterfinals, because I believe the Pakistan curse starts actually from there. That's my true opinion. That over against Amir Sohail and Venkatesh Prasad, it just finalizes everything. And we're here 7-0, hoping against hope that Pakistan pulls it in this World Cup. But moving forward, Pakistan gets knocked out, and Sri Lanka wins that World Cup in Lahore. Benazir Bhutto is the one who gives him gives Rana Tunga the trophy. One of the greatest legends for Sri Lankan cricket. Happy for them. 1999 World Cup, arguably the greatest Pakistan cricket team of all time. Do you agree or disagree?
100% agree. I think if you make an all-time ODI 11 for Pakistan, at least 7 to 8 players are in this squad.
Yep.
Starting off with the Saeed Anwar, Shahid Afridi, Wasim Akram, Waqar Yunus, Shoaib Akhtar, Moin Khan, Inzamam ul Haq, Muhammad Yusuf, Abdul Razak, Azhar Mahmood, Saqlain Mushtaq, Shoaib Akhtar, and some might even put the legend Wajahatullah Wasti.
I would.
You would.
Who the hell is that? Who the hell is Wajahatullah Wasti, bro? I mean, that's a running joke on this podcast. If you haven't seen that 1999 World Cup has 10 of the greatest players Pakistan has ever produced, and then Wajahatullah Wasti.
Man, I heard that guy went to jail for something.
Bro, really?
I'm gonna Google that.
Yo, Bashar always brings the scandalous news on this podcast. Anyways, we're gonna run through the Group B stages, and while Bashar pulls out the numbers, Pakistan beat West Indies, Pakistan beat Scotland, Pakistan beat Australia. That's the last time Australia got beaten for 34 games. We're gonna bring that up as well in the future, because the next time they get beat is also by Pakistan. Pakistan beat New Zealand, and then Bashar explain this, because now we have to discuss the allegations, and we have to discuss what is sort of a black mark in the history and the legacy of Wasim Akram. Pakistan gets beaten by an inexperienced, some would call them a baby team in Bangladesh.
The conspiracy is that Pakistan lost that match on purpose. I don't know how much I believe in this conspiracy. The story is Pakistan wanted to lose against Bangladesh so they can gain test status. I don't know how much I believe in that. I don't know. It's hard to say because sometimes you can genuinely have an upset. Other times you might say, okay, Salim Malik is in that team. Wasim Akram, there's allegations against him.
That's what I wanted to get to you on that.
Inzamam ul Haq was fined. Mushtaq Ahmed was fined. Waqar Yunus has been fined. In that
four match fixing allegations?
In the Justice Qayyum report. And this is the 90s era where match fixing and spot fixing is very prevalent.
That is peak.
Yes.
So I wanted to discuss this because it will be hard to talk about this World Cup without addressing the main point, which everybody keeps bringing up, even to the point where Wasim Akram had to bring it up in his own book, Bashar, because we've read this and we know that this is something he discusses at length in his book. This starts from this Bangladesh game because there are still to this day there's rumors about this, and this comes back again in the World Cup in 2011.
Actually, it starts in the 96 quarterfinal because Wasim Akram was the captain, but you may have noticed he wasn't playing in that quarterfinal because he got injured. I think he injured his groin. And people blame Wasim Akram for the loss against India, even though he wasn't playing. So I think people just need to find a scapegoat to blame for your inability to perform or win or just not being good enough.
I believe there's a little bit of both playing around. I think Pakistanis, at least, Jemima has a very fun quote where, she says that Pakistanis will believe any conspiracy theories thrown at them. Something along that I'm paraphrasing. They love a good conspiracy theory. And I feel like it's easier to blame. It's easier to say that our players sold out than it is to accept that we got beaten by Bangladesh. I think there is some of that, but it is highly peculiar that a very informed Pakistan team gets beaten by Bangladesh, and that's their only loss in the group stages. Now, Pakistan qualifies for the Super 6, which is this World Cup is a really weird World Cup. I read here, and I'm going to read right back at it what it says to me. It says teams who qualified for the Super 6 stage only played against the teams from the other group. So if you've played against your own group mates, you don't play them again in Super 6. You take those points and you basically get them added, and then you just play the other teams that you haven't played. Really weird Super 6 stage. That's what I'm understanding, at least. So Pakistan play against South Africa, India, and Zimbabwe. And India's record in this Super 6 stage is 1-4. Guess who they beat?
Pakistan.
Pakistan's is 3-2. And guess who they lose against?
India.
And Bangladesh, like we said before. So the Indian game, India scores 227. We get knocked off for 180. Explain it to me. Please explain it to me. How does that happen?
I think chasing, Pakistan has never really been good at chasing it. And I'm seeing Inzamam ul Haq, the top scorer, 41 of 93 balls, chasing 227. Ridiculously slow innings. And again, the legend Venkatesh Prasad with 5 wickets.
Insane. Prasad only plays against Pakistan, it feels like.
It really does. And I think Pakistan just never got going in the batting and lost by 47 odd runs.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, this is the batting lineup. I'm going to give you the straight up lineup, and you tell me any other day this lineup beats any Indian team. Saeed Anwar, Shahid Afridi opening. Great time, by the way, for Shahid Afridi stands. Ijaz Ahmed 1 down. I mean, okay. Salim Malik 2 down. Inzi 3rd down. Azhar Mahmood, Moin Khan, Abdul Razak, Wasim Akram, Saqib Bhai, and Shoaib Akhtar.
Legends.
This team beats India any given day, anytime. And yet, we're not able to taste 227. Make it make sense. I don't know. Is it the curse finally like calling up on us? It's tough.
I mean, if a 92 World Cup winning team can beat India, if a all-star legendary star-studded 99 team can beat India in a World Cup, I don't know who will. Who else can?
Babar and his boys can in 2023. You mark my words, guys. You mark my words. Pakistan qualified for the semi. Saku is the second player to take a hat trick in a World Cup match. Good on Saku. Pakistan plays New Zealand. Convincing win. Saeed Anwar scores an unbeaten 113 off 148. Pakistan win by 9 wickets.
But despite his century in a winning cause while chasing 242, the man of the match, Shabi.
Yeah, I
Show
was
out there.
just gonna go about that. He takes 3 for 55 in 10 overs. Just a beautiful bowling performance from Shabi, like completely dismantling the New Zealand batting attack. I mean, Shabi at his peak in '99. Was there anything better to see? The baggy greens, him running in, chain flying left and right against his chest, the wind in his hair, the wind in his eyes, fierce motive, focus. He's just looking at the three stumps. It's almost like the batsman isn't even there. And you come in 145, 150, 155 sometimes. Just insane. In England pitches, nothing better, man. Genuinely nothing better.
According to Shabi, his peak was 94, 95. And if he had played back in the day, he would have been a different bowler.
96 World Cup would have been ours.
Maybe, perhaps.
Benazir lifting the World Cup with Wasim Akram.
Love to see it.
Love to see it. Another what if situation. Anyways, Shabi is the man of the match in that semi-final. Pakistan going to the final. Who do they play against, Bashar?
Australia.
Now, before I bring up the Pakistan-Australia final, we have to address the match fixing allegations against Wasim Akram. Now, I want you to put your hand on your heart and I want you to tell me, do you believe, I'm not talking about facts, figures, I'm talking about your strict opinion, was the 1992 World Cup match against Australia on 20th June fixed against Pakistan?
If you ask me, the fixing incidents, the reason why they say it's fixed, it starts off with the toss where there were overcast conditions, and the idea was that Pakistan should have won the toss, bowled first, used Wasim Akram, Shoaib Akhtar, Abdul Razak to take wickets up front, put Australia under pressure, and then chase it down. But I believe the Pakistan wanted to repeat 92 World Cup, where they win the toss, bat first, put runs on the board, and then take wickets in the second innings to put Australia under pressure and make them chase in a World Cup final. People sometimes forget that this is like a prime 99 Australian team, which went on to win 3 World Cups in a row, which went on to become undefeated in World Cups up until from this match till the 2011 World Cup match where Pakistan beat them and sort of broke their 34 match winning streak. So, I mean, all that aside for a second, I think Wasim Akram has mentioned many times that it wasn't just his decision to bat first. It was decided in concurrence, in agreement with everybody in the dressing room that they're going to win the toss and bat first, put runs on the board. And I just think they were outplayed on the day by a terrific Australian team that had the likes of Glenn McGrath, a prime Shane Warne who took 4 wickets. You talk about seam conditions and swing conditions. You actually got outplayed by Shane Warne.
You actually have to give credit to Glenn McGrath here as well. He bowls 9 overs, 13 runs he gives for 2 wickets, and he bowled 3 maidens. His economy is 1.44. And the one thing I loved about Glenn McGrath, you won't see any extras. Zero wides, 0 no balls.
Discipline.
Just disciplined bowling, one length, England seaming conditions. This guy is moving it around as much as you like, right? And you come back and you see that at the end of the day, the leading wicket taker isn't even a seamer. It's my boy Shane Warne. Rest in peace to Warney up in heaven. But tough one, man. Tough
and I
one
think
for
by the
Pakistan.
time where Australia came out to bat, the sun came out, the pitch got baked at Lords, and it became a flat batting track. And Shabi, Wasim Akram, they were just really easy to play. And Adam Gilchrist at the time, just counter-attacking the team up top. 54 off 36 balls, really taking all of our bowlers to the cleaners. And Pakistan demolished in a one-sided affair.
Yeah, Pakistan takes his first wicket of Adam Gilchrist in the 11th over, 10.1, and Australia had already scored 75. They were 75 for 1.
Game over.
Gilly comes out, scores 54 off 36. Another player who I would have loved to see more of in T20 cricket. Striker at 150, just completely battering your bowlers. Shabi goes for 37 in 4 overs. Vaz goes for 41 and 8. Like, the worst is Azhar Mahmood for 20 and 2. Like, Pakistan was never in this after the first innings. I want to talk about a quick what ifs before we move on to the 2003-2007 World Cups, which should be a quick movement. What happens if South Africa makes it to the final, man? Because that very tumultuous semi-final against South Africa and Australia in 99.
The game was actually tied, and Australia, I think, won over because of run rate. I think that was probably South Africa's best chance because Lance Klusener, one of the best all-rounders, was in his prime form, and he was literally winning matches right, left, center with his batting and his bowling. So it would have been great to see South Africa win or get to the finals. Maybe Pakistan would have had a better chance at outplaying them compared to one of the best Australian teams, despite Pakistan beating Australia in the group match. So they did have what it takes to beat them, but I guess the pressures of a final it really got to them.
Yeah, it makes me think, a few things. If South Africa had come to the semis, sorry, if South Africa had come to the finals, it's a whole different picture, right? Maybe Pakistan pushes them. If Pakistan pulls through their choker card and sort of amplifies that, it sort of feels like Pakistan would have been able to come full circle and secure that win, and would have been the second World Cup win, and would have probably put Wasim Akram as one of the greatest Pakistani captains of all time as well, because Wasim has two captainships in World Cups. Both gets knocked out in the quarterfinals. That's something to say there.
Oh, one in the quarterfinal, one then in the final.
One in both in the playoffs is what I meant to say.
Yes, right.
Tough luck. 2003 World Cup comes. Not much to talk here. Vicky is the captain. His last World Cup. Saeed Anwar's last World Cup. Wasim Akram's last World Cup.
Rashid
Latif's last World Cup.
Saklan Mushtaq.
Saki's last. Like, it's just the end of the era. Like, Moin Khan doesn't play this World Cup, but Moin Khan retires a year after this anyways. Pakistan in the group stages, again, divided into two groups, Pool A, Pool B. India, again, not in this pool, which is crazy to me. But Pakistan plays, India in the pool. My bad. What am I thinking? What am I saying? India was in the pool. Pakistan plays 6 matches, wins 2, loses 3, 1 not, 1 NR. India, on the other hand, I just want to mention, wins 5, loses 1. I'm just going to run through what Pakistan
Zimbabwe goes through, man.
Yeah, Zimbabwe goes through on this side, and I believe Kenya goes through on the other side.
That's insane.
On technicality. If you open that main article, you'll be shocked. That World Cup was insane. Sort of like a free ride for the semis if you go through that. Because the Super Sixes were just, you have Kenya and Zimbabwe in it. Tough one to lose. Anyways, Pakistan lose against Australia. Australia scored 310. Pakistan get knocked out in 228. Pakistan wins against Namibia. Pakistan lose against England. England in 2003... Not the side to lose again.
Bro, Jimmy Anderson blew over Pakistan. Pakistan's top run scorer was Shoaib Akhtar in that match. I think he scored 43 off like 16, 17 balls. Just like a abysmal performance in Pakistan with the bat in that match, and just like it seemed like the inception of Jimmy Anderson and what he could achieve and what he has achieved in Test match cricket.
Anderson got Inzamam Ulaq and Muhammad Yusuf both off the first ball.
Yep.
Insane. That was a baby Anderson, by the way.
Outswinging Yorkers, starting on middle stump, squaring them up. And that's probably our 2 best batsmen of all time, Inzi and Yusuf. So it just shows the class of Jimmy. Even at a young stage, he did have what it takes to become one of the great bowlers.
That's crazy. You're right. Shoaib Akhtar scores 43 off 16, hits 3 6s and 5 4s. You take that abnormal performance out, and Pakistan doesn't even cross 100.
Yeah.
Insane. Jimmy Anderson takes 4 for 29 with 2 maiden overs and 10 overs. This is why I feel like he's your guy. This is why. I see it now. I'm a Jimmy stan. I mean, I've been in test matches, but this performance speaks volumes. So Pakistan get knocked out there. Pakistan win against Netherlands. And then India, oh my God. We talked about this in a previous podcast in the Q&A section. This is my first memory of Pakistan cricket is this match. The uppercut. So Sachin Tendulkar gives Shoaib Akhtar, goes for 98. Shabi gets smacked all over the park, by the way, in this match. And Pakistan, lose against India in 6 wickets and no result against the Zimbabwe game. Now I was thinking, Pakistan have 14 points here. Pakistan, if they have a result against Zimbabwe, could have basically qualified
on run rate, yeah.
But a run rate, a match getting washed out in 92 makes you win on 0.11% net run rate. Here, it goes against you. Also, March 1st was the game against India.
I just don't think Pakistan deserved to go to the quarterfinals, the Super 6 in this World Cup, because you've literally only won against Namibia and Netherlands. Like, you're not a good team, clearly.
Yeah, but things get changed all the time, bro. Same thing happened in 92. They didn't really win against the big teams until
they won against New Zealand.
Until the end, they didn't win against the big teams. So Super 6 could have been different.
The only highlight of Pakistan in that World Cup was Shoaib Akhtar getting the fastest ball record. and Wasim Akram becoming the first bowler to take 500 ODI wickets.
That's it.
That's it.
It's over from there. Let's move on. 2007 doesn't look more bright, man. It's probably the worst World Cup Pakistan has ever played. This is the first time the World Cups were divided into like groups. I remember we were in Pakistan at the time, and they were actually setting the schedules in the school canteens. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
We each bought one, kept in our wallets, the wallet size schedules. It was the last World Cup for Inzamam ul Haq. It was the last World Cup for who else? Bob Woolmer.
Mohammad Yusuf.
Rest in peace. Last World Cup for Mohammad Yusuf. Yes.
Rauf Takhar Anjum.
Oh my
Legend.
God. The legend of what?
Rana Naveed.
Rana Naveed Al Hassan.
Mohammad Sami.
Oh Lord. Sami comes back and makes an appearance in some of the T20 World Cups.
But it was his last ODI World Cup.
Yeah, last ODI World Cup.
Imran Nazir.
Imran Nazir as well. Yeah, tough one for Pakistan in this. The only highlight I think is the 160 Imran Nazir scores against Zimbabwe. Pakistan get knocked over by West Indies, all out 187. Pakistan lose through Ireland. Pakistan is beaten by Ireland. Ireland knocks out Pakistan for 132, and they chase it down in 41.4 overs. Insanity.
And then your coach dies.
And then your coach dies.
And then all the players are like investigated because they're a suspect in the case of murdering your coach, which is insane because initially it was a murder case which turned into it was discovered that it was natural death.
Yeah.
So
insane. So the last game that Pakistan plays in their World Cup is against Zimbabwe. Imran Nazir scored 100.
Did Mohammad Yusuf take a wicket off the first ball?
Mohammad Yusuf takes a wicket?
Off his first and only ball, I believe.
Yo, I gotta double check that,
bro.
Oh, you're actually right. Chris Mofu or Pofu. He takes no laughing. That's the name. You guys can freaking for this. It's with MPOFU. Is the only Mohammad Yusuf wicket. Oh Lord. Okay. Crazy World Cup. I want to forget it as quickly as possible. 2011 World Cup. We're here. We're finally here. This is the World Cup that I distinctly remember. This is my first World Cup as a cricket fan that made any sense to me. That made me believe in Pakistan cricket all over again. This is after 2009 Sri Lankan cricket attacks. This is after 2010 Muhammad Asif Amir Islamabad bans. This is an era where the broken pieces we're just finding a way to fit them together at this point. Shahid Afridi will always have my respect for trying to lift up this team. Everybody in that 2011 team World Cup, maybe barring Omar Akmal, has my respect for trying to do something that everybody felt was undoable at that point. Pakistan cricket was in shambles. People were talking about not watching cricket again. And then Shahid Afridi formed a team. That 2010 Asia Cup is where things got turned around. He scores 2 centuries in that Asia Cup, a highest run scorer. Sort of brings back the swagger for the Pakistan cricket team. And then Pakistan, man, in the group stages, goes almost unbeaten.
They lost that one game against New Zealand, which was very sad for me because I was a huge Shoaib Akhtar fan, man.
What happens? Talk to us.
So Shoaib Akhtar, he wanted to retire back in 08, 09, but considering the fact that Pakistan lost their best 2 bowlers, Asif and Amir, Shahid Afridi requests Shoaib Akhtar to come back and play. So he's jogging, sprinting on one knee because of his knee issues. You can listen to all of his interviews to understand what happens there. He gets Ross Taylor out twice in the over, nicks him off, gets dropped by Kamran Akmal, and then the second ball, I think it goes between Yunus Khan and Kamran Akmal, who's in the slips, and nobody goes for the catch. It's Ross Taylor's birthday. Happy birthday, enjoy your day. And Ross Taylor smacks an unforgettable century. And literally just like Pakistan are not able to come back from that. And it turned out to be Shoaib Akhtar's final match. And he just gets smacked all over by Ross Taylor.
New Zealand scored 100 runs in the last 6 overs.
Yeah.
That was the state of affairs at that point. And I have a lot of sympathy for a lot of Pakistani cricket players that retire. But my sympathy for Shoaib Akhtar goes a long way because just his services to the sport and to the game of cricket. But not only that, the way he was sort of sent away, it breaks my heart. He should have played that semifinal against India. And let's go to the semifinal against India. I mean, what's more to say? We recently rewatched it for this podcast, and it just breaks our heart many times. you cannot drop the greatest batsman of all time for four different times. Uh, Stumpings were dropped. That leg before was very questionable. And it took Shahid Afridi coming back and barely holding on to Sachin Tendulkar's catch at the end and against Saeed Ajmal's ball, literally barely holding on to it for them to get such an out. Even then, 260 for 9 seemed like something that Pakistan would chase, and they looked like they were on par. And then just when shit started hitting the fan, it was crazy.
I really think it was in the middle overs where when Asad Shafi came in, when Yunus Khan came in, when Misbah was playing, that they just didn't, take singles and doubles, lots of dot balls, which put pressure. And you can't be giving wickets to Yuvraj Singh, man. Like Yuvraj Singh takes the wicket of Asad Shafiq and Yunus Khan, 2 big wickets, and he makes up for going off for a first ball duck.
Talk about a nothing innings. 32 ball 13 from Yunus in that semifinal, and 76 ball 56 against with Misbah Haq in that. Umar Akmal comes in, does some sort of counter attacking, but then Abdul Razak 9 ball 3. That's not Abdul Razak. Like what happens? Munaf Patel is literally the one that's sort of like Munaf Patel is a World Cup winner and Abdul Razak is not. Like take that in. That stat is insane.
I'm trying to take that in. I think that's also very important to mention that the Tuk Tuk name from Misbah came from that match. It was because of how he played. And later on, I think Shahid Afridi's daughter in an interview mentioned how Misbah was just doing Tuk Tuk. And that was
viral. And then
that was viral.
That was his name for the longest time.
Some to this day.
Yeah.
I think our mom was a huge cricket fan. And
yeah.
This World Cup semifinal was the last match that she's ever watched. She has boycotted cricket and she has immense hatred for Misbah Haq. She can never forget how he was on the crease playing dot balls, not taking singles, and only going ballistic in the end where the game was pretty much out of Pakistan's hand.
Another conspiracy that I would like you to debunk. Was this match fixed?
I don't know. I mean, people say, and I'm just, don't shoot the messenger, both prime ministers were at the ground. Pakistan looked to be in good form. They had momentum carrying forward from the group stages. And things happen that don't really add up. You drop the main player 4 times. And who are the players who are dropping Sachin? Misbah Haq, your best fielder. Yunus Khan, Umar Akmal. Kamran Akmal, I'll give him, like, maybe that was a genuine drop. So, I mean, it's a lot of those things that just don't add up. And some of the ways the batsmen are like throwing their wickets away. Hafiz, his scoop, I don't, question Hafiz's integrity.
That was a weird scoop.
It was a weird. And then also, like, the one thing that I do think about a lot is, like, Afridi was a great captain, right? Suddenly, after that World Cup, I think a couple of years after, Afridi loses his captaincy, and Misbah Haq gets the captaincy, and he is the unquestionable captain for the next 4 years until the World Cup, becomes red ball captain for the next 6 years. So I don't know.
Like, who's the benefactor from this whole situation? It's Misbah. So like 2 + 2 = 4 is what you're saying.
I'm just saying what the questionable factors are out there.
What do you think?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't want to blame things without having any evidence, but the speculations are there. I don't want to dive too deep into it. Because I respect Misbah as a player, as a test captain.
He did get you the T20. He did get you the test mace, even if it was for 2 weeks, but you had it in Lahore. It was there. So Misbah has done his fair share of duties to make sure that Pakistan is the team that it was. He got Pakistan out of a slump, but like you have to give him that. The 2016 test series against England, like you have to give him that, right? He did pull off something that was unquestionable. But my opinion is Pakistan won this fair and square. The 2011 semifinal, they definitely did.
India won fair and square.
Sorry, my bad. Yeah, Pakistan lost this fair and square. They were just not the better side. The pressure gets to them. It's the first time they're playing in India in a very long time. Mohali Stadium was bulging, bro. It was bouncing. It was like insane. I remember still hearing the crowd when they got Shahid Afridi out, when they were taking their wickets. It was insane. So the last few things I want to talk about before we move on to the 15 World Cup, which is also going to be a really quick affair. Shahid Afridi was the leading wicket taker, broke Wasim Akram's record, took 21 wickets. Pakistan had only lost that one game against New Zealand, so they were almost kind of undefeated in the group stages. And like it was the end of an era for me, personally speaking, because Shahid Afridi, like I said, was the player that made me fall in love with cricket. Doesn't have to be the greatest player, doesn't have to be the best player. It was just my favorite player. So I have to give respects to Shahid Afridi there. And yeah, just a World Cup to forget after those performances. I still go back fondly and I look at Afridi's bowling in that World Cup because it was really fun to watch. Great leg spin, great variation. He actually broke the record of being the first bowler to take 4 wickets in 3 straight games. So, kudos to him. He was a really good attacking captain. I would have loved to seen him do more, but
I remember like we had this Sony MP3 player and we would play, school cricket and we would go to matches for our school team and you had 2 video compilations in that MP3 player. The first one was of all 21 wickets of Shahid Afridi at the World Cup and you would watch that before the match. And there was a compilation of all Shoaib Akhtar's greatest videos. And I would watch that before that match to sort of pump me up, get me motivated, backtrack with the Junoon songs. So great days. And literally, these were the players that we grew up watching, idolizing, trying to copy them. Yeah. So just 2015 was the last for Afridi and Misbah.
Yeah, 2015 was a dark one for us. You know what? I've sort of warmed up to that 2015 kit. People still talk about it being
horrible kit.
Come on, man.
Tell me what's happening. What's going on?
It's just nice design. Like, okay,
what's the design? It's just like lines on the top, light green, looks like a watermelon, literally.
I have a soft spot for that light green kit. Maybe it reminds me of 99. I don't know, but looking back, it doesn't look as bad. But just the memories associated with that World Cup, it gives me trauma. It was the last World Cup for Misbah and Yunus and Afridi and Sohail Khan apparently.
And Rahat Ali.
Sohail Khan, bro.
Come on, Rahat Ali.
Sohail Khan said that Kohli was apne ghar ka.
And gets him out in the World Cup.
And the 49th over.
Does
it count?
The wicket is a wicket.
I mean, the scorecard says it, and literally he took a fifer, but
a win
doesn't
is a
count. Pakistan, not, you know what? We remember the 2015 World Cup with a lot of disdain, but Pakistan didn't really do as bad as we thought he did. Okay, they lost against India, but they lost against India and West Indies, but then they beat Zimbabwe, UAE, South Africa, and Ireland. They finally take their revenge. They qualify to the quarterfinals, and then what happens, Bashar?
And they get knocked over by Australia in the quarterfinals. I remember Pakistan not being able to use the dimensions of the Adelaide Oval. It is an oval ground, so the side boundaries are short, and Australia tempted a lot of Pakistani batsmen to hit in those short boundaries, and they kept mistiming it. I remember Afridi got caught out in the boundary. Misbah got caught out in the boundary, and literally giving wickets away to Glenn Maxwell. Come on.
Glenn Max. Yeah, Maxi takes 2. Hazelwood takes 4. And yeah, all of these are caught out, either by the keeper or by the fielders in the back. I mean, a lot of good things also come out of this. I mean, this World Cup is the emergence and the era of Sarfaraz Ahmed begins from 2015. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I think he was unfairly put out of the team, and Pakistan was trying to get Omar Akmal to do a job he wasn't good at, which is wicket keeping. He's one of our best fielders, and you're out there asking him to wicket keep, and he's dropping catches, missing stumpings, and all that despite having a genuine wicket keeper in the team. And
the Akmal brother mafia, bro. He was hard to beat.
I also found it super unfair that you then suddenly bring in Sarfaraz Ahmed in a must-win match against South Africa, putting him in to open the innings. He scores 49, hits JP Dewini for 3 sixes and over, brings out the shot yar from Wasim Bhai, and then takes, I think, 6 catches in that match, becomes man of the match, scores 100 in the next match against Ireland. So just respects to Sarfaraz for that performance under those circumstances, which eventually just became part of the myth of who Sarfaraz Ahmed was.
Yeah, spoken like a true Karachi Bashar. Can you name me the Pakistan 11 for that quarterfinal?
Off the top of my head?
What?
Ahmed Shahzad was Nasir Rashid playing?
No, he was playing.
Nasir Rashid?
No.
Who was the opener? Ahmed Shahzad and?
Sarfaraz.
Yunus Khan?
Nope.
Okay, Haris Sohail?
Yep.
Misbah ul Haq?
Yep.
Sohaib Maqsood?
Yep.
Omar Akmal?
Yep.
Shahid Afridi?
Yep.
Wahab Riaz?
Yep.
Sohail Khan?
Yep.
Ehsan Adil?
Whoa, I didn't think you'd get that.
Yeah, because he got Aaron Finch out.
Yeah, he got Aaron Finch out. Yeah. Ehsan Adil and Rahat Ali.
Who am I missing? Afridi?
Rahat Ali.
Rahat
Yeah.
Ali. Okay, there we go.
Where are these people now? Where is Rahat Ali, Suhail Khan, Ehsan Adil?
Ehsan Adil is in the US playing minor league cricket. Sohail Khan, I believe, is retired. Rahat Ali, I don't know where he is.
Like, what happened to these guys?
This was just
how did we send these people into the World Cup? Where was everybody else?
The problem was Hafiz gets a calf injury. He's out of the World Cup. Ajmal gets banned for his action. Junaid Khan picks up an injury. And I think, where's Mohammad Irfan? Is he also injured?
I don't know. I have no recollection of this.
Yeah, Mohammad Irfan probably also gets injured because he was playing the initial games, and a lot of hype around Mohammad Irfan because 7 footballer playing in Australia. We thought the balls would go over people's heads, but turns out flat pitches in Australia didn't really help his bowling action or his height at all.
Crazy, but Mohammad Irfan does come out and a few years before that redeems himself in India. So, like, do we really have a problem with Mohammad Irfan? Yeah, so Pakistan gets knocked out. A very solemn affair for them. Start of the Sarfraz era. We move into 2019, the World Cup that you and I pitched our monies together. We pinched pennies. We made sure that we were there, and we saw the South Africa and New Zealand games, which both games that Pakistan won. Do you remember how that World Cup started for us?
Yes, it was a loss against West Indies, which recorded one of Pakistan's lowest scores in ODI World Cups. An absolute shit show, if you want to call it. Horrific loss, and again, if Pakistan had won that match, they go through and qualify. If the game against Sri Lanka didn't wash out, they would have go through and qualify. If they lost against West Indies with a better margin, they would qualify with the same amount of wins, but with a better run rate. So lots of ifs and buts, but I think one respectable and commendable thing for that World Cup was how the Pakistan team bounced back after losing against Australia and India. Like literally before we went to go watch the World Cup, Pakistan had come off a loss against India, which again, whose tickets we were trying to get but were sold out. Thankfully, we didn't go and watch that match. And instead,
really, there's no redeeming quality in that game.
In that match,
yeah, Pakistan India game. Like, if you had gone, would you have actually been disappointed?
I would have been disappointed. Firstly, because there was a lot of rain in that match, so it was a start and stop affair. And secondly, like I don't want to be in a position where like thousands of Indians are making fun of me because the Pakistan team does not show up at all. And that's where the whole Sarfraz meme came out, where he's Johnning. But
that's where
Mohammad Saqib becomes
the world gave us Mohammad Saqib. Like, there are some positives from this. You can't just disregard everything, can you?
I mean, I wouldn't really call them positive. The only positive you might call is because the Pakistan team was on rock bottom. The only option they had was to go back up, which they did, and we're so glad to witness the game at Lord's. Firstly, watching a game at Lord's was sort of a dream come true. 100%. I bought the tickets for Lord's because I wanted to see A.B. de Villiers and Dale Steyn. Mind you, we bought the tickets a year in advance, so both of them were playing in the team at the time. A.B. de Villiers unfortunately retired, and then Dale Steyn picked up an injury before the World Cup, so he wasn't both of them were not part of the World Cup. But again, just the experience of watching a World Cup match at Lord's, the home of cricket, just the ambiance, the vibe of the ground can't really be put into words. Just so much history, and to see Pakistan win was even better. Babar scored 60 odd runs. Wahab Riaz took wickets. Shaheen Afridi takes wickets. Haris Sohail was the hero of that match. And then we go watch the next match in Birmingham. Perhaps Babar Azam's coming of age, where he showed us that not only can he score hundreds, but hundreds and match winning, chasing causes for Pakistan by going out, not out. One of the most wildest crowds, and just one of my most happiest days of my life was that day against Pakistan, New Zealand. Starting off with that spell from Shaheen, and then just bad captaincy from Sarfraz, letting them score 240 after being 80 for 5. But then that partnership between Babar Azam and Hafiz, and then Babar Azam and Haris Sohail to take Pakistan home. Always a very, very special place in my heart. And I think that was just the moment that Babar Azam became Babar Azam. And people realize that this guy really does have the potential, because we forget that he was just 24 at the time, and he notched up the most runs for a Pakistani player in any World Cup ever, 474.
That's true. And I love the way you said that, because it really started, it planted the seeds for this podcast, at least for me, where I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to talk about cricket with you, and I just want to make sure that I have fun doing it. So, I mean, this podcast will definitely open up opportunities for us to go forward and experience more cricket in the world. But yeah, 2019 World Cup, Pakistan is inched away from the semifinal spot. They had the same points as New Zealand, as you said. New Zealand has 0.175 net run rate. Pakistan had negative 0.43 net run rate and just got knocked out. It was a tough call. Would have loved to seen Pakistan in the semifinal. Things would have been different, I believe, in that semifinal. Pakistan would have played India in that semifinal if Pakistan had gone through. So, lots of ifs and buts. 2023 is going to be its own challenge, I believe. But just a few highlights I'm going to run through real quickly for the fans. The most runs ever scored, all-time most runs scored by a Pakistani player is Javed Miandad at 1083. Shout out to Imran Khan for 666 there. Devil's number. That's my boy right there. Most runs in a single tournament is, like we said, our boy Babar 474. Number 2 is Javed Miandad at 437. And then Ramiz Raja, shout out to him, 349 at 1987 World Cup. Most centuries, we've discussed this. Ramiz Raja has 3, Saeed Anwar has 3, and Amir Sohail has 2. Most 50s is Javed Miandad at 9. Shout out to Misbah Haq with 7. Like, he's only played 2 World Cups, but 7 is a great number. Highest batting averages ever. Babar 67.71 in 2019. Shout out to my king. Number 2 is Ramiz Raja. Shout out to you for 43.84. And Saeed and Misbah. And then Zahir Abbas as well, like you mentioned, one of the greats. Most 6s ever. Shahid Afridi has 12 6s. But number 2 is Waz with 11 6s. Wild number. Good for you, Waz. Imran Khan there with 8 as well. Love to see that. Lowest score we talked about was 74 against England in 1992. That was the one that got rained out. Thankfully, if you're an atheist, the God does exist. Most ducks, Ijaz Ahmed. Okay. Good for you. Most wickets is Wasim Akram in 38 matches. He took 55 wickets.
Number 2 is Wahab Riaz.
Shout out to Vicky. 35 wickets. I don't know how you did it. Honestly, I don't know how you did it. But 11, 15, and 19, 3 World Cups he's played. So I guess, and those were World Cups with longer formats as well. So I guess I can see how that happened. 20 innings, 35 wickets. Good for you, Wahab Riaz. Imran Khan at 34. Shoaib Akhtar, your all-time at 30. And my all-time, Shahid Afridi at 30 as well. 21 of those coming out in 2011. And then, most wickets in a single tournament, like I said, 2011, Shahid Afridi with 21. Shout out to Muhammad Amir for 17 in 2019. That's a feat. That's a big feat. Best bowling figures, Shaheen Afridi, 6 for 35 against Bangladesh in 2019. That's a World Cup game that I wish I would have seen. That would have been a great one to see as well. It was
the sad part of that game was Babar Azam got out for 99. Would have loved for Babar to score 100 and get his name on the honors board. Imam ul Haq did score 100 in that match. But
how did he get out? Do you remember?
Babar Azam, I think he got caught.
Was it 99?
I'm pretty sure it's 99.
It's crazy. Anyway, Shaheen 6 for 35 and 9.1 breaks Shahid Afridi's record for 5 for 16 against Kenya and Hambantota. Afridi again on that list, 5 for 23 against Canada. And then Wasim Akram, 5 for 28 against Namibia in 2003.
That was 96 for Babar Azam, my correction.
96, yeah. And how did he get out?
He got LBW, actually.
By?
Saifuddin.
All right. Good. Congratulations, Saif. Most 4-wicket hauls is Shahid Afridi with 4, Abdul Qadir with 3, and Wasim Akram with 3. I'm not surprised that Shahid Afridi is on this bowling list so many times. His 2011 performance is genuinely one of the greatest bowling performances by a Pakistani spinner in a very long time. Everything else is quite, everything else, I'm just looking over the thing. Last one that I think is a little bit relevant is most matches as a captain. Imran Khan, he played 22 matches, won 14, lost 8. Waz, that's why I think Waz has definitely, if he had won that 99 World Cup, there was an argument for him to be the greatest, is because Bashar, he has 15 played matches, only lost 5. That's a great record. My boy Shahid Afridi, 8 played matches, only lost 2, won 6. And Safi has 8 with 5. Tough one for Safi, actually. and Misbah has 7, lost 3, won 4.
We'll have
That's
to
it.
see how Babar Azam does on this list
Babar
in
Azam
6 weeks.
This is what I was just gonna come to that because we are wrapping it up. This is genuinely our longest podcast ever. I know you guys cannot see it, but on the other hand, Bashar was giving me a lot of this. You can see there's a lot of cutting the cord. We're almost inching 2 hours. Thank you, Bashar, for Thank you for sitting through with this. This was genuinely one of the longest podcasts we've ever done, but one of the most important ones as well. Well researched. We took our time with this one, and I'm glad we got through to this. Final thoughts before we wrap it up, Bashar. What are we thinking for the 2023 World Cup? What of these stats will we see different? Babar Azam has the most runs, most centuries, most wins for a Pakistani captain. Wickets for Shaheen. What are we thinking? What are we hoping?
Yeah, definitely Babar Azam scoring runs and hopefully getting to a point where he can surpass the record of Javed Mirdad. I'm hoping he can score a couple of hundreds to equal the record of Ramiz Aja and Sayyid for most centuries for Pakistan World Cups. Shaheen Afridi to contribute towards the wickets columns. There's 9 matches, and these are good friendly pitches for both bowling and batting. More towards batting. So really, I'm hoping that Babar Azam can turn up and cement his name in history for Pakistan as the player who turns up in big tournaments, who shows up when Pakistan needs it the most. Because right now, there's many tags associated to him of not showing up for Pakistan in big matches in clutch moments. And now is the opportunity for Babar Azam to change history, make history, and put his name in the annals of Pakistan cricket.
Well said. Brilliantly said. I think that's a brilliant place to end it. Thank you guys very much. If you guys have been listening to us for the hour and 50 minutes that we've been live, this has genuinely been one of the toughest podcasts to do, but something that we really wanted to get through to and make sure that we do it right. This is the only way to have done it right. If you guys respect us, if you guys love this podcast, please check out our Patreon. Consider sharing, subscribing, and commenting. Like I said, fire emojis for Bashar and the wrath of the Babar stands against Bashar. And genuinely, thank you guys. We'll see you guys in the next podcast. Cheers.
Cheers.